Like, you will drift away into nothing.
I wonder if you're on a
Like, yeah.
planet, if you jump down, like, would you jump down into Earth?
No,
would you,
not
like-
unless you're close enough to the atmosphere. If you're just a little bit away from the spaceship and you're not tethered to anything, you will not come back. You cannot move.
So you're just floating.
You're just stuck in that one spot.
That would freak me out.
Well, on that note, welcome to Grab a Crate.
Yeah.
Should we do our intro? A little intro?
I think
that
so.
We've been working on an intro.
Okay.
Are
Just
you
for
ready
you.
to hear it? Yeah,
I'm
just
ready.
for you. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Boom, boom, get,
Grab a crate.
Beautiful.
You reckon it was good?
It's great.
Yeah. We're thinking about like releasing it to like big labels in America. So.
Yeah, might check it on Spotify too, if
Yeah.
we're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Well, you know. Anyway, Jodi, welcome
Yes.
to Grab a Crate. It's good to have you here.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I kind of want to pick at your brains a little bit today.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you have had a few career changes
Yes.
in your lifetime so far. Can you talk about that with us?
Yes. All right. So I got into graphic design like a couple of years ago, but prior to this, I worked with people with disabilities and I worked in daycare. So I'd been into like art and all of that kind of stuff, like all of the standard things that people in graphic design say they're into for like my entire life. But I wanted to do something meaningful, something that was helpful, but I didn't really know because wasn't good at school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left school. So I ended up working in daycare because there was a daycare centre close to me and I like kids because kids are fun, kids are honest, kids are cute. And I worked in daycare with babies, so 6 weeks to 2 years maximum, full-time for like 3 years. The work is nice. It's nice to connect with families, but it's really bad pay. It's really stressful, like listening to babies cry, you know, however many hours a day, 5 days a week for 3 years. It really does take a toll on you. You don't really realize it till you leave. So I ended up quitting. And then I decided to, because I still wanted to help people, I enjoyed that community aspect of working in like a kind of education scenario. So I decided to go into ed support because my mum also works with people with disabilities, and most people I know also work with people, or either work in a school or they work with people with disabilities. So I went to school, went to TAFE, and then I studied for like a year to do my ed support and everything, and then got a really decent job at a private school working with people with high needs disabilities. So not just like mainstreaming, we're talking people with severe levels of autism where they cannot deal with like certain aspects of like the school environment, so they stay in a centered, you know, sheltered area, which is really, you know, is really daunting. It's really intense to see that kind of everything for every day for like 5 days a week again, but you get school holidays off and that's all paid and everything, so it has like a lot of plus sides
Happy
to it.
days.
Yes. Then like after a few years we started getting, it's not like anyone's fault, it's just the way that it worked out. We ended up getting a lot more violent students come in, and I was getting attacked a lot more. And I was like, yeah, it was just getting worse and worse, and I was just kind of like sat back. So my partner was studying at the time, and it was like, well, what do I want to do when he finishes?
Yeah.
So I came and looked at like a showcase to have a look at what kind of like stuff, what kind of like creative stuff I could possibly be doing. And knowing that I wanted to do something in art, but I didn't want to do an art degree, I found out more about graphic design and was like, okay, this is what I want to do. So when he graduated, I started part-time, and I really struggled the first trimester. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, I don't know if this is for me. Got my first HD, so that was like a nice little, yeah, you're doing the right thing, you're understanding it. But then like I kind of like went into a deep like pit of unknowing of like, oh my God, I don't know if this is the right thing for me. Why am I wasting my time in doing this? I had to move back to my parents' house because I just wasn't coping.
Is this because like university is a different environment?
It's a, I think because of my age as well. I'm a bit older, so like I feel like the older student coming into a university, like where most people are like 18 straight out of high school, I really had a lot of trouble fitting in initially as well, like different drives, different people. It's taken me a while to realize that that's normal, like everyone is really different here anyway. But when I deferred and then came back, I realized I actually loved it. I loved it more than anything. I love the stress. I love the work. I love the thought process behind it. And in its own way, it's quite similar to working with people with disabilities because, I mean, it's not the same, obviously, because there's more money involved, first up. But working with people with disabilities, you have to cater to each person with their own unique disability in their own unique way. So I had a client who you could not cope with any fluoro lights. The low hum of a fluoro light would just send him into a rage. So we had specific lighting in a specific corner for him so he could actually come in and feel safe. And then there was another student who couldn't deal with like the color red, so we wouldn't have the color red in there at all. It's the same kind of thing with briefs, where like you have to stick to certain constraints and like in order to make sure that the client is happy and healthy and, you know, complete. So yeah, now I'm on my last little leg of this degree and I'm feeling like it's the right thing for me. It's just been a really tumultuous, what do you call it, the up and down
Roller coaster. This is a roller coaster. So like obviously like coming from then to now with personal growth and development and stuff like that, have you found that being involved in the creative industry has kind of boosted you up in terms of confidence and
absolutely
all that
like
sort of stuff?
I feel like I'm not hiding myself anymore, like because I worked in a Catholic school, you have to dress a certain way, you have to present yourself a certain way. I mean, you still do for clients, but it's more expressive of yourself at the same way. Like there's a way that I will interact with people, there is a way that I approach certain situations. And like everything that I've been doing in that regard has only been boosting my self-esteem and who I am as a creative person as well. So it's just great.
I guess also like the creative industry in WA is very small.
Yeah.
It's tiny.
It's very small.
Really small.
I feel like we can all relate where it's pretty stressful, where you're kind of thinking, am I going to get a job out of this, that sort of thing. How are you coping with that with design?
Well, I do like I still go through all of the massive self-doubts and everything, but I think that's just like the cycle of creating anything. But I go to networking events where it's just like constant reevaluation of like established people in the industry telling you that, yeah, there are going to be like regular moments of absolute downtime and what am I doing? But if you're having those and you're overcoming them and you're driving yourself and you're coming to like networking events and you're building yourself up as like a creative and you're constantly upskilling, then you will be fine. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Is there ever like, obviously like, let's go back to the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a time where you were so low that you have actually created something really amazing?
Yeah. In high school, I used to make some, I don't have them anymore unfortunately, but I used to make really, really nice artworks based on like the ocean and everything. But just because like high school's horrible, and like just depression and anxiety not being like diagnosed in me as well, and just having like some kind of an outlet. So I had like all of these meaningful pieces of art from high school, but unfortunately don't have them anymore. But those are going to be like some of my favorites from like way back when. Whereas now I create more based on briefs than anything, and I find it very difficult to create anything purely for myself now.
Why is that? Is that because if you do it for yourself, you're taking away from what you're supposed to be doing, or is it because you just?
I feel like it's because I'm a little bit more stable in my own head now, that I'm like, I don't feel like I have to hide in artwork anymore. I'm actually creating things for a reason, not just because I can't deal with certain situations. I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I've got to do this for this person, and yeah, it's actually a really good motivator. But I've started digital painting. Like I'm trying to upskill my digital painting, so that's getting me a little bit more into creating for myself, but in a positive way, which is nice.
What's the most, I guess, like this is a broad question for all designers out there that are wanting to know, what is the most challenging thing that you face when working on a project or something? Is it if someone gives you a certain thing to work on, for example like a business or something, is it that initial first stage of doing the first design that you guys have trouble with? Or
well, I feel like the concepting phase, which is that first thing of just like going over all of these different things and then figuring out what you think is best for the client, is like the easiest phase, to be honest. It's when you get feedback from multiple lecturers that all have their own viewpoint like you do in the way that it needs to be done, and if you can't back your claim, then you kind of have to go with them, and then you lose your way. The hardest thing is finding your own ground and just standing on it, even if some of the feedback you get, you're like, well, you're right, but I'm right. You know what I mean?
That's actually a good point, because I'm sure like both of you can relate. I'm very bad with constructive feedback. I tend to just shut down completely.
Oh, I love it.
I tend to take it really personally, because especially if you're working on something for so long and you're so excited about it and you're like, yes,
It's
this
your
is awesome.
baby.
Yeah, it is. Like,
completely.
and you go in there full confidence and you like smash it out, and then you get constructive feedback that isn't like so much negative and bad. It's to help you make it better, but you don't take it too well. Like, that is a really bad thing I do.
I had that problem in the beginning, but I've learned to build like a little bit of a wall between me and my work, so that if I do need to change something, or if it doesn't work, I don't get hung up on it, and I can just take the next step and move on to whatever needs to be fixed, which is hard. That's really hard to do. But
do you ever like consider, I guess, changing your project to like better your marks?
Yes.
Instead of doing what you wanted to do?
Well, my original magazine, so for my first major project, I did a magazine. It was a 40-page magazine, and I had created a masthead, which is the title, and then I had criticism on that to change it. So I did, for the better of the grade, and then I kind of sat there and was like, well, this is for my portfolio at the end of the day. And like, I don't like what I've turned this into. So I ended up changing it completely back and justifying it for that reason. And I ended up getting a HD anyway. So I feel like it's a bit of both. It's like, this is my work, and this is the design reasoning as to why it needs to stay like this. It's like, I've taken your criticism, I've changed it, and now I know that I don't like it. So I'm going to keep it the way that I want to keep it. Yeah, it's hard.
It's really hard. And I mean, there's so much of that in this industry with what we're going into. There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And they're going to, egg you on to change it to, fit into what they like. But at the end of the day, it's your work, and you got to put out what you want to put out.
It's it can be really difficult when you're in a classroom full of designers that all have their own like viewpoint on how things should be, and you just know that yours is right, but then they also have the same thought process about your stuff, and it's just like, oh no, I'll take it into consideration, but you're wrong. Like,
yeah, sometimes like you feel intimidated.
Yeah, you do.
And then other times it's just like, no, I'll do it my way, and I want it done my way, because like as creatives, we all are individuals in terms of what projects like we come up with.
But your own individual spin on it is what makes it your thing. Otherwise, it's the same as everything else. Yeah. So what's the point?
That is true.
That is 100% true.
Cool. Well, Jodi, thank you for coming on. We appreciate that, and we'll chuck all your social media up on our page so everyone can go have a view of that and see what stuff you come up with.
Awesome.
Sorry. Shouldn't have me hanging on TV.
I'm sorry.